What's up, guys? My name is Wes, this is Peace Parts, and in this episode, we're starting on the turbo build. So in this series, we're going to be putting this bad boy onto that, so it should be pretty cool. Stay tuned. Alright, so as you can see, I've already kind of got it torn down. I've got the fenders off, the bumper off. I've taken some of the stuff out of the engine bay. Anyway, I got the bumper off here, and yesterday I started working on mocking up some of the intake piping. So I've got the cold side. I got the cold side pretty much ran, connected up to the intake here, and then it runs down through around here and kind of over to the intercooler somewhere, which is right there. And then from there, the intercooler piping will come out of the intercooler roughly around there somewhere, snake back around through here, and then go right through this hole here. And then it'll go to the turbo, which will be somewhere right there. So basically what I've already done here is I pulled off the stock intake, stock airbox. I unbolted the cruise control module right here. And what we're going to be working on today, though, is I'm going to try to open this up a little bit bigger, make it so the piping can actually fit through there. But most importantly, what we're going to be doing is trying to mount up the intercooler here. I've got this super cool gold Mishimoto intercooler that I'm going to try to use. Figured it'd be a little bit better than the CX Racing one, which is where I got all the piping. So I went ahead and bought the a piping kit for this car, and the intercooler is very close to the size. It's a little bit narrower, but also a little bit thicker than the CX Racing one. So in my opinion, it'd be a little bit better quality, and I'm not going to be running too much boost, so it shouldn't really be a big deal as far as the sizing and actual efficiency of it. But I went ahead and did buy the CX Racing intercooler piping kit, which the rest of it's over here. I had to get a couple different couplers to mount up to that intercooler just because it's slightly bigger than what the other ones were. And then I've got my cheapy blow-off valve. So I've got some steel to make an intercooler mount, and that's what we're going to be working on first. And then we're actually I'll probably try to cut that out first, grind that out a little bit bigger, and then we'll work on an intercooler mounting. So let's get to it. All right, guys. So I got the intercooler piping all clamped up. I got all the clamps on each one of the couplers, so everything is nice and solid now. You can see the intercooler is on there pretty good. I'm wiggling it pretty hard, and it's not going to go anywhere. So once I got the couplers on there and everything, it kind of solidified everything else. So it's not perfect, but hopefully it should hold. I might have to come back in here and trim this pipe a little bit more. I took a couple inches off, but I might have to take a couple more off because it doesn't quite fit right. It needs to kind of suck up a little bit towards the car more right here. So I went kind of shy on the cut just in case I needed to cut more. And on this side, I got the insanely crappy blow-off valve mounted. Next thing I did was I drilled a hole and tapped it for the IAT sensor, which is right here. I got the pigtail coming off of it, and then I need to extend these wires and run them all around the back of the engine and over to where the MAF plug was, which is something over there. Connect it into a couple of the wires there, and then the Megasquirt will know what that is seeing. Speaking of that, I also got the Megasquirt mounted. So I basically just drilled a couple small holes and put some sheet metal screws through the rear shelf here, basically, and they're really secure. Plugged in the factory harness there. I've got my tuning cable running out here, and then the last thing I'll have to do is run the map sensor vacuum line from the engine to here. Alright, so it's kind of hard to see here, but I got the intercooler mounted nice and straight now. Before it was a little bit crooked, it was a little bit high on that side. And so basically what I did to try to fix that was, first of all, I messed with some of the piping, trying to see if I could kind of wiggle it to the correct spot. That didn't really work too well, so what I ended up doing was remaking this bracket right here. And I made it just a little bit longer, and then that kind of bent it a little bit more. So that bracket comes over angles down and then goes back to a flat spot. I also got this side to fit a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see because in the last video it was still pretty far away from here, but it is closer, and this joint right here is way straighter than it was before. And I test fit the fender over this, fits just fine, no problem. There's a little bit of a gap here and plenty enough room for the clamp here, so that's awesome. I shouldn't have any issues with that. I also went ahead and cut an old rubber fuel line, sliced down the center of it, and wrapped it around there on the parts where the coupler would be touching, just so that way I don't have the coupler rub against the metal and then create a boost leak, because boost leaks are not cool. And speaking of boost leak, yeah, you probably know. This is the wiring for the IAT sensor. So this plugs into that sensor, and then I'll run the wire around the engine bay, across the firewall, and then into my MAF plug right here. So wire into, it'll wire into, I believe it's the 3rd pin right here and the 4th pin. So it's non-polar, doesn't matter which way it goes in, but those 2 wires will be connected into the other end of this right here. Yeah, those 2 wires. Some other stuff there regarding the piping. I got the IAT sensor all wired up here, so I went and got some 1/4-inch loom just from O'Reilly and ran that all the way around. So you can kind of see there's where the loom goes, and then it routes over to the plug that's kind of stashed away down in there. You can see it from over here. So this is where the loom goes, and on the end of it, I needed to plug it into the stock MAF plug, and I plugged it into there, and I'll show you the terminals in a second. I plugged it into there and then bent the wires over, and then just wrapped the crap out of it with electrical tape. And this is actually what a lot of people say they do, and it's pretty easy to do it this way. You wire it into the factory wiring, and you don't have to worry about it. It's already plugged straight into the Mega Squirt. Don't have to worry about there. And that's the same situation they do with the wideband. So the wideband plug that I talked about earlier, which is this plug right here. So this is my factory O2 plug, and I took the factory O2 sensor, cut the plug off of it, and then wired the blue wire on the factory plug. It actually goes into the blue and red there, I believe, red and blue, whichever way you want to say it. And that goes into the 0 to 5 volt output of my AEM wideband gauge. So if you're having troubles with that, those are the connections that you need to make. You need to make the red and blue wire on your factory harness connects into the 0 to 5 volt output of whatever wideband you're using. So the terminals I used for my IAT sensor, I just went to O'Reilly and bought a pack of assorted spade connectors. To those little guys there, put a couple of the red ones on there, and then I actually took some snips and snipped one side of them off, and then that allows you to plug straight into the MAF plug nice and securely, and then I bent those over and then wrapped it all up. So you can also buy factory terminals, or if you buy the IAT sensor kit from DIY Autotune, they send you those terminals already together, but I got the sensor cheaper from somewhere else, and so this is how I did it. And it communicates to the Mega Squirt just fine, so I think it should be alright. Alright guys, that's going to be a wrap on this week's episode. We got the intercooler all mounted up, we made some custom mounts for it. We got the intercooler piping all plumbed up and connected and everything. Everything's nice and solid, ready to go. We got the IAT sensor bolted in and connected and everything. We got the wideband plugged into our factory harness. Lots of good stuff. So we have everything we need now to get all the information to the Mega Squirt. Oh, we also got the map sensor plumbed from the Mega Squirt to the intake manifold. So you need those 3 sensors basically to be connected to the Mega Squirt. We got all that set up. So next video you see is going to be the first startup on the Mega Squirt, which is going to be NA, obviously. And so we're basically just going to start it up on the base map, make sure we have all our configurations set up just right, start it up and make sure that everything works and that we're running just fine. So you'll see that next week, but for now, that's all I've got. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you like the video, please be sure to give it a like, and that's all I got. So peace out, guys.